Some places do not become haunted because people die there. Some places become haunted because something was left unfinished. A scream, a promise, a final thought trapped in the moment between life and death. In the quiet farmland outside the small village of Lucan, Ontario, there is a story that people still lower their voices to tell. Not because they believe in ghosts, but because they know what happened there was real. On the night of February 4th, 1880, a group of men walked down a frozen road carrying lanterns. They did not come to talk. They did not come to scare anyone. They came to erase an entire family, the Donnellys. For years, the family had been hated by many of their neighbors. Fights, feuds, accusations, violence. The tension had grown for generations until one winter night, it exploded. The mob arrived after midnight. The snow was deep, the world was silent, and the only sound in the darkness was the crunch of boots moving toward the farmhouse. Inside, the Donnelly family slept. They had no idea that dozens of eyes were watching their windows. No idea that the men outside were carrying weapons. No idea that they were about to become one of the darkest chapters in Canadian history. When the door finally opened, the night changed forever. The attack was quick, brutal, merciless. When it ended, the farmhouse was set on fire. The flames rose into the winter sky, and by morning, several members of the family were dead. The newspapers reported the murders. The courts investigated. The country talked about the horror. But the strangest stories did not begin until after the ashes grew cold. The first reports came from neighbors, people who had lived near the farm their entire lives, people who had known the Donnellys. They began hearing sounds at night, not screams, not footsteps, something much worse, knocking, slow, deliberate, from the front door of houses that stood miles away. 3 knocks, always 3. Families would open the door, nobody would be there, only empty snow. And a single trail of footprints, coming toward the house, never away, as though whoever made them had arrived and never left. At first, people blamed each other. Someone was playing a cruel joke. Someone wanted revenge. But then the footprints began appearing where no person could have walked. Across frozen ponds, across deep snow with no disturbance around them. Even on rooftops, the stories spread, and so did the fear. One farmer, a man named William Carter, publicly mocked the stories. He told everyone at the local tavern, "Dead men don't knock." The room went silent. The older residents looked at him with something close to pity. One woman quietly replied, "Don't say that after sunset." William laughed. He went home that night through the empty fields. His wife later said he was in a good mood. He kissed her, sat by the fire, and continued joking about the Donnellys. Then shortly after midnight, 3 knocks echoed through the house. Not from the front door, not from the window, from inside the walls. William stood, annoyed. He grabbed his lantern and searched every room. Nothing. No one. He returned to bed, then the knocking moved. From the ceiling, 3 knocks. Above him, the room went silent. William stared upward. His wife whispered, "Don't look." He asked her why. She said, "Because my father told me something when I was a little girl." She began crying. "He said the Donnellys don't want you to see them." William laughed again, but it wasn't the same laugh. It was forced, nervous, the kind of laugh people make when they're trying to convince themselves they're not afraid. Then the lantern went out. The room became completely black, and from somewhere in the darkness, a voice spoke. Not angry, not loud, almost a whisper. A woman's voice. "Do you hear them?" William froze. "Who?" The answer came immediately. "Coming." Then they heard it, not inside the house, outside. Dozens of footsteps slowly walking through the snow, surrounding the home. A circle of footsteps coming closer and closer. The couple ran to the window. Outside, the field was empty. No people, no lanterns, nothing, until the clouds moved away from the moon, and they saw them. Footprints, hundreds of them, appearing one after the other, as if invisible people were walking toward the house. The footprints stopped at the front door, then a knock 3 times. William did not answer. For the first time in his life, he was afraid. And then the voice whispered again, this time from directly behind him. "Don't let them in." The next morning, William's wife found him sitting in a chair facing the front door. He had not slept. He had not moved. When she asked what happened, he only said one sentence. "They're not trying to get out. They're still hiding." For years afterward, William refused to explain what he saw after the final whisper. Even on his deathbed, when his family begged him to tell them, he only repeated the same words. "They came with lanterns." His hands shook, his eyes filled with tears, and his final words were, "They're coming down the road again." But the most terrifying event in the Donnelly haunting was still decades away, because in 1974, a group of teenagers broke into the remains of the old Donnelly property to spend the night proving the stories were false. Only one of them returned willing to speak, and the recording he brought back has never been explained. By the summer of 1974, most people in Lucan no longer spoke openly about the Donnellys. The old farmers did, the ones who had grown up hearing their grandparents whisper about the night of the massacre. But younger generations laughed. The old stories were just that, stories. A way to scare children. The Donnellys were dead. The farm was gone, and ghosts did not walk the fields. That was what 4 teenagers believed when they drove down the old road on the night of October 18th, 1974. Their names were never released publicly. At least, that is what the legend says. Only one recording remained. A cassette tape discovered weeks later in an abandoned truck, parked near the edge of a cornfield. The keys were still in the ignition. The battery was dead, and every window was covered from the inside with old blankets, as if whoever was inside had been trying to keep something from looking in. The tape began at 11:42 p.m. A boy laughs. "Okay, this is stupid. We're here. We're at the famous Donnelly Farm." Another voice answers. "Tell them what time it is." 11:42. Nothing's happened, no ghosts, no witches, no dead farmers. Laughter. The sound of a car door opening. Cold wind. Crunching footsteps. One of the boys says, "See? Just a field." Another replies, "That's the creepy part. There's nothing here." The recorder continues for several minutes. The boys joke, they tell stories, they walk through the remains of the old property. Then, at exactly 12:07 a.m., everything changes. One of them suddenly stops talking. "What?" A friend asks. Silence. "What is it?" A long pause. Then, "Do you guys see that?" The others become quiet. "See what?" "The light." More silence. "What light?" "There." His voice is shaking now. "It's in the trees." The tape picks up a faint sound. Not a voice. not an animal. A crackling, like a small fire. One of the boys whispers, "Is somebody out there?" The sound grows louder, closer. Then another voice says, "No." "What?" "That isn't a fire." A long silence follows. The next words are barely audible. "It's a lantern." The mood of the tape changes instantly. You can hear it. The confidence is gone. One boy says they should leave. Another tells him to stop being scared. Then there's a noise, a footstep, right behind them. All four boys turn. The tape captures their reaction. "Who's there?" "Nothing." "Stop messing around." "Nothing." Then a new sound begins. More footsteps, several, slow. Crunch, 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 coming from every direction. One of the boys starts counting. 1. Another voice interrupts him. There's more than one. The footsteps continue, not running, not chasing, walking, like a group of people approaching calmly. The tape records one of the boys breathing heavily. Then he says something that investigators would later replay 100 times. "They have lights." The others begin panicking. How many? The answer comes immediately, too quickly, too many. The next 30 seconds of the recording are almost impossible to listen to. The boys begin running. Branches snap. They're screaming at each other. The recorder hits the ground several times, but through the chaos, another sound can be heard. Voices, men's voices, not yelling, not angry, talking quietly, like they're having a conversation. One of the boys screams, "They're following us!" Another answers, "No." A pause, a terrified whisper, "They're walking." The tape cuts out for 14 seconds. When the sound returns, one of the boys is speaking. He's crying. His voice is so quiet it is difficult to understand. "I'm in the truck." A long pause. "They're outside." Heavy breathing. "You can see the lights." The tape captures the sound of him moving a blanket away from the window. Then his breathing stops. A whisper. "No." A longer silence. "Oh God." A shaking voice. "It's not them." Silence. "It's the family." The boy begins sobbing. "They're still inside." The recorder picks up another sound. A knock. 3 slow knocks. Directly on the truck window. Tap, tap, tap. The boy whispers, "They found me." Another knock. This time from the opposite side of the truck. Tap, tap, tap. Then another and another. Every window, every side, until the entire truck is surrounded. The boy starts praying. Then suddenly all the knocking stops. Complete silence. For almost 30 seconds there's nothing. No wind, no insects, no movement. Then the tape captures something no one has ever explained. A woman's voice, soft, gentle. The same voice heard in countless versions of the Donnelly legend. She says, "Don't open the door." The boy whispers, "Who are you?" The answer comes slowly, "I hid with them." Silence. Another question. "What do they want?" A pause. Then the woman says, "They want to finish." At that exact moment, the sound of a lantern being placed on the hood of the truck is heard. A small metallic clink. Then footsteps, dozens of them, walking away, slowly, returning to the fields, returning to the darkness. The boy waits. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5. Then he starts the truck. The engine turns over. He begins driving. The recording continues for another 8 minutes. He never says a word, only breathes, only cries, until the final moment. The truck suddenly stops. The brakes slam. The boy gasps. And he says the last words ever recorded on the tape. "No." A pause. "No, no, no." His voice breaks. "They're on the road." Another pause. The final sentence is barely a whisper. "The house is back." The recording ends. The truck was discovered 2 weeks later, empty. The cassette still inside. The doors locked, the headlights burnt out, and there was something investigators never placed in the official report. Something found sitting in the passenger seat. A lantern, cold, covered in mud, and engraved into the metal frame were 4 words: "We are home again." The surviving boy was never found, but some people in Lucan still claim that on certain winter nights, if you drive down the old Donnelly Road after midnight, you will see a farmhouse standing where no farmhouse should be. Warm light glows from the windows, smoke rises from the chimney, and a woman stands at the doorway. She's not asking for help. She's not warning you away. She's waiting. Because this time, the Donnellys are not the ones hiding. Something else has come to the house, and it has finally found them. By 2022, the Donnellys story had become a legend, a tragedy remembered through history, a ghost story repeated around campfires, a warning whispered between people who lived near the old roads outside Lucan. Most people who visited came with cameras. They took pictures, made videos, told their audience that the stories were nothing more than folklore. And every one of them left before midnight, except one, a documentary filmmaker named Daniel Mercer. Daniel has spent years exposing fake hauntings. He was intelligent, methodical, and absolutely convinced that every ghost story had a human explanation. When he announced he would spend the night at the old Donnelly land, he promised his viewers, "By sunrise, we will finally put this myth to rest." The video was uploaded 3 days later, not by Daniel, by the police. Only fragments were ever released to the public. What follows is a reconstruction based on the final footage recovered from his camera. 10:13 p.m. The camera shows Daniel standing in an empty field. Cold wind moves through the dead grass. The moon is hidden behind thick clouds. Daniel laughs. This is it. He slowly turns the camera. No house, no ghosts, no mysterious lanterns, just a field. He points to a small wooden marker. A horrible thing happened here, but horrible things don't leave monsters behind. For almost 2 hours, nothing happens. The camera records the quiet, the wind, the occasional sound of insects. Then at exactly 12:01 a.m., Daniel's expression changes. He stops talking. He turns his head. Somewhere behind the camera, a sound, a faint crackling, like fire. 12:03, Daniel walks towards the trees. Someone's out there. The camera shakes. Hello? No one answers. The crackling continues. Then a light appears, small, orange, moving between the trees, a lantern. Daniel smiles. Okay, somebody's trying to scare me. He follows it, and that was the first mistake. 12:18 a.m. The camera quality begins to deteriorate. The battery drops from 82% to 7% in less than 2 minutes. The timestamp flickers. The GPS signal disappears. Daniel's confidence disappears with it. I walk 10 minutes into the trees. He turns the camera around. His truck should be visible behind him. It isn't. The road isn't. The trees aren't. Everything behind him is just darkness. An endless wall of black. No stars, no moon, nothing. Daniel begins breathing faster. This isn't possible. 12:24 a.m. The lantern stops. It hangs in the darkness ahead. Not being carried, not being held. Floating. Daniel whispers, "Who are you?" A woman's voice answers, not from the lantern, not from the woods, from directly beside his ear. "You shouldn't have followed it." Daniel spins around. Nobody. The voice continues, "We did too." 12:31 a.m. The camera captures something that investigators refuse to explain. For less than 1 second, the image changes. The forest is gone. Daniel is standing in front of a farmhouse, the Donnellys farmhouse, completely intact. Warm light shines through the windows. Smoke rises from the chimney. Children's voices can be heard inside. Laughter. A family having dinner. Then another sound. Footsteps. Many footsteps coming down the road. Slow, steady. The laughter inside the house stops. A woman screams, "They're here." The camera cuts back to the forest. Daniel is crying. "I saw it." A pause. "I saw the night it happened." 12:40 a.m. The lanterns returns. Now it is closer. Daniel notices something beneath it. A hand. A human hand holding the handle. But there is no body attached to it. Only a hand, blackened by the smoke, burned. Still gripping the lantern, Daniel starts running. Behind him, the footsteps begin. Not chasing, walking. The same sound from the old tape. Slow, patient, as if they know there's nowhere left to go. 12:49 a.m. Daniel reaches his truck. The doors open. He jumps inside, locks it. The camera falls into the passenger seat. The lens points out the windshield. At first, nothing. Then lights appear. 1, 3, 7, 20, dozens of lanterns stretching across the field. A line of silent figures standing in the darkness, not moving, watching. Daniel whispers, "Who are they?" And the same woman's voice returns, this time from the back seat. Very softly, "Not the ones you should fear." Daniel slowly turns the camera, and for the final 5 seconds of footage, there is something sitting behind him. A shade too dark to understand, too large to fit inside the truck. Its outline bends in ways that should not be possible, and behind it, through the rear window, the lanterns begin moving away, as though the people carrying them are retreating, running, fleeing from whatever is inside the truck. The camera falls. The image becomes static, but the microphone continues recording for another 2 minutes. The police report says the audio was damaged. However, one investigator who listened to the complete recording before it disappeared gave a private statement. He said he heard Daniel speaking, not screaming, not begging, talking calmly, as if he was speaking to someone he recognized. The last sentence on the recording was, "Wait, you were in the house with them?" A long silence. Then another voice answered, a voice that was not human, a voice that sounded like hundreds of people speaking at once. It said, "We were under it." Daniel Mercer was never found. His truck was discovered at sunrise. The doors were locked from the inside. The keys remained in the ignition. The camera was in the passenger seat. The battery was still full. But the most disturbing detail was discovered by the officer who opened the driver's door. A fresh trail of muddy footprints led away from the truck into the empty field. The footprints stopped exactly where the Donnellys farmhouse once stood, and beside the final footprint was a single lantern, still warm. Even now, some people who drive the old roads outside Lucan say they sometimes see a farmhouse in the distance, a house that should not exist. They see a family standing in the windows, watching, waiting. But the oldest warning says this: if the lights inside the farmhouse are bright, keep driving. If the lights are dark, keep driving faster. Because if the door opens, it isn't the Donnellys inviting you inside. It's the thing that finally came out. That was what four teenagers believed when they drove down old road. That was what four teenagers believed when they drove down the old road in the night. Fuck me. That was what four teenagers believed when they drove down the old road on the night of the. That was what four. Oh, fuck me. Okay. Fuck. Okay. That was what four teenagers believed when they drove down. Oh my god, no. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, seriously now. That was what four teenagers believed when they drove down the old road on the night of October. Shit.